We're shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud, and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. We've got such a great guest today. Nicole Whalen is with us, and she is the CEO and founder of Green Compass. This is a company that's really making a difference fighting climate change and its implications in Washington, D.C. and then beyond. So stick around. You don't want to miss this. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Can you just give us a quick overview of Green Compass and how and why you started it?
Of course. Green Compass is a company that retrofits commercial and multifamily buildings to fight climate change. We deploy nature-based solutions like green infrastructure that uses living plants and soil systems to capture and clean water. We use solar systems, we use electrification, efficiency, and EV charging. All of these are tools in our toolkit that we can retrofit buildings to lower emissions.
It doesn't. We talk about climate change, a big chunk come from buildings that we don't think about that often, do we? What important this is.
Exactly. It rarely gets translated a source of emissions, both in the district. It's over 70% of our emissions come from our building sector, but it's also worldwide. We spend 90% or more of our time every day in buildings. Some of these buildings are around for centuries, if not longer, and they have a huge impact on our health and also the environment. And the good thing is that we already have the technology to retrofit them. We just need to mobilize the investment in that space.
This really is, I think, an important conversation. And you've done a number of projects, and thankfully you shared some of the photos on Instagram. So I want to pull up your Instagram feed here and have you kind of walk us through one of your projects. It's a very cool project, and it's, I think, a good example of some of the things you're doing, isn't it?
Yes. Green infrastructure is probably something that's not familiar to many people. It's an umbrella term, but green stormwater infrastructure, to be more specific. Maybe if you jump to the next picture, it might be a little more indicative. So it's a big hole. This is the start of what is a rain garden or a bioretention system. And this is just engineered green space that we designed, built, and developed this specific garden to capture over 900,000 gallons of water a year that comes off of this church's parking lot and the roof. And by capturing the water before it enters the sewer, and our sewers are designed just to transfer that water to the rivers without treatment, by preventing water from entering the sewer, we are effectively cleaning up the watersheds, but we're also cleaning up the airways because we're using living systems. This is, if you keep scrolling through the photos, you'll get to see when it gets filled up with soil layers and plants as well. We did have to connect to the sewer system for an overflow, so that's what these photos are.
I see.
So
is this the same hole then?
Same hole. It's about 2,000 square feet right there. So just something as small footprint as 2,000 square feet can capture almost 1 million gallons of water a year. And it's taking that load off of our water. It's decentralizing our water system, our water treatment. And decentralizing utilities is something that's a controversial statement, but also indicative for sustainability, is that we need to have more decentralization of our energy sources, to have renewable systems. We need decentralized water systems as well so that we can have better treatment, because our existing systems are not meeting the Clean Water Act.
Yeah. Now, I suspect that one of the dynamics going on here is that you've taken advantage of some clean water credits of some sort, so that the church probably didn't pay for this project. A developer probably did. Is that right? And if so, how does that work?
Exactly. The church paid absolutely nothing for this project, and they were able to effectively lower their water bill by over 20%, with no cost to them. Green Compass was the developer, so we designed, built, and operate this. We take care of the maintenance as well moving forward. There's quarterly maintenance when you involve a garden. You have to continually weed it and make sure that things are taken care of properly. We also installed over 40 trees on this site too. You can see that they had a very large grassy area, almost an acre of land with no trees. And that breaks my heart every time I see lots of land and no trees to be cooling down the temperatures, especially in this neighborhood in Ward 5. It's one of the highest urban heat islands that we have in the district. I think the last photo will actually show the severity of the heat island, and that red dot is where the location of this project is. So by adding a micro forest of over 40 trees, by adding 2,000 square feet, almost 2,000 square feet of a rain garden, these are measures that put nature to work to cool down our cities, to clean up our waterways and also our airways, because these systems are actively sequestering carbon as well.
Okay.
And how it's possible is that the District of Columbia has a very progressive policy, is that we were not meeting the Clean Water Act. There was actually a lawsuit and citizens sued, and that was over 10 years ago. And the solution, in order to have fishable and swimmable rivers, because we were having billions of gallons of sewage overflow into our waterways every year, and the nation's capital couldn't even have a national triathlon because there's too high of E. coli content in the water. It's even worse for communities in the Anacostia River, which this is part of that watershed rather than the Potomac River. But the solution that the District of Columbia came up with, which is very novel, and we're seeing it actually be picked up and replicated in municipalities across the country now, is the creation of a stormwater retention credit. It was modeled after the solar credit, and it effectively allows private investment to create green infrastructure, to put it where it's needed, and generate credits that can be sold to developers who have a stormwater compliance requirement. This might be too much jargon, but it allows us to sell credits generated from our green infrastructure to developers who are building new construction or renovations in other parts of the city that don't need the infrastructure installed there. They already have functional sewers. We need more green infrastructures and more green infrastructure and sewer capacity in parts of the city that isn't getting the same investment. So this is a flexibility for developers doing renovation or new construction, that they don't have to manage their stormwater on their own construction site. They have the flexibility to purchase credits generated from offsite, like one of our installations. The site hosts that we work with get the benefit of having improved beautification. They have landscaping and maintenance taken care of. Their water bill is reduced by over 20%. The long-term value of the trees and the shade that will come, it's wonderful. And then Green Compass, we get our cost recovery by selling those stormwater retention credits. And we also, we just launched our very first investment offering to profit share with investors from the stormwater retention credit revenue that we have under contract.
Yeah, so this is kind of an exciting thing. We've got, in fact, I'll just put on the screen here, this link, this short link redirects to your crowdfunding campaign on Raise Green. So s4g.biz/RGGC, Raise Green, Green Compass. So that little link will get you to their campaign. You can learn more about it there. But you called yourself the developer of the project that we were looking on. Tell us a little bit. You said you got the funds for that in the I wanted to call it the carbon offset, but in the stormwater retention credit market. Is that an efficient enough market that you can go at any time and describe your project and get paid for it? How does that work?
The financing of the project is through DC Green Bank. So Green Compass was their first borrower to finance stormwater projects, green infrastructure projects. And we're able to have a loan facility with DC Green Bank because they recognize the value of the stormwater credits that are generated from the project. And that's how we receive cost recovery, through the stormwater credits. And because they're a non-traditional bank, they are one of the few lenders that would actually work with us to understand the market and to understand the revenue process. Traditional banks don't want to deal with something new or small, or they have a line of other borrowers that they could work with. And DC Green Bank has been pivotal to our ability to grow and expand our work and our projects that we have in the District of Columbia.
Now, you've got the potential to do this sort of thing all around the country. Tell us a little bit about your plans for the future. It isn't limited strictly to DC, is it?
Well, this is a very common question we get. So the marketplace in DC, the stormwater market, just hit its 10th year. So 2024 is 10-year anniversary of the Stormwater Retention Credit. DC was the first place in the world to create this. So we're finally seeing this experiment kind of bleed out and be picked up by other municipalities. Cook County, Chicago, Illinois has launched their own program similar to this. Philadelphia has a similar program, Los Angeles. Stormwater may not be a subject that you hear about often, but it's it's the number one source of water pollution. It's becoming more and more pressing of a problem due to climate change, due to the changing frequency and intensity of storm events. And not having adequate sewer infrastructure is increasing flood events, it's increasing stormwater runoff events, our overdevelopment and impervious surfaces we put down with roads and roofs and sidewalks. It's all making the problem of stormwater runoff. Rainwater shouldn't be a problem, but when too much water is running off of surfaces and not infiltrating where it falls, then we have flood problems, and then we have pollution problems from all the flood water and stormwater. And it's only getting worse with climate change. So this is a very pressing problem, and municipalities do not have the funding in order to build new sewer projects and to do very capital intensive projects to manage stormwater. And ratepayers can't be the ones paying for these improvements either. So we need to find a way to leverage the private sector, and the District of Columbia has done a great job of finding a solution to do that through the Stormwater Retention Credit.
Yeah. Well, this is just great work that you're doing. It's so exciting to learn more about it. Thank you very much for being with us. We're going to take a quick break. I'm here, folks, today with Nicole Whalen. She's the CEO and founder of Green Compass. It's a company that is doing green infrastructure projects starting now in DC and growing from there. Great company. Also doing a crowdfunding campaign on Raise Green. You have an opportunity to invest there. I encourage you to check it out. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk to Nicole about her superpower. You don't want to miss this, so stick around.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started, or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green.
Want to learn from the world's great change makers? Find your superpower. Subscribe to the Superpowers for Good newsletter at superpowersforgood.com. Make your strengths into superpowers that will change the world. Join the super crowd today. Superpowers4good.com.
Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal, to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with Nicole Whalen. She's the CEO and founder of Green Compass, a great company doing green infrastructure in the DC area and then beyond. We are excited to have her today on the show. We're going to shift gears, though, now and talk to her about her superpower, so stick around. You don't want to miss this conversation. Nicole, you've done some really, really cool things. And, you're building in your hometown, a place I think you love there in DC. It's the nation's capital, but it's also your neighborhood. And you're spending a lot of time, I think, and energy building up this as a really great demonstration case for what could be a thriving, high impact business. But as you think about what has allowed you to accomplish great things, what do you see as your superpower?
That's a great question. And I often think that I am able to see differently and think differently because my background started in science. And when you adopt a scientific mindset and you take the world through the scientific um, approach, the world is just different. And it's not just science, but specifically ecology and the ability to look at relationships between one another and not seeing humanity as distinct from our environment, but very much dependent on having healthy ecosystems, I would say is my superpower. Um, I am very much a proponent of clean water and clean air for all. I think it's how we've gotten to where we are. 300 years ago, our rivers, the nation's capital's rivers, were crystal clear, teeming with fish, and we've managed to trash it in record timing, in my opinion. But that's completely reversible. Nature is so strong and vibrant, and we need to harness the power of nature to help us deal with climate change. And that's my superpower, is that I don't get so climate change isn't something I see as a depressing end of world must be scenario. It's very much a call to action to make the world a better place, which we can. We have the technology. It's just about utilizing it and mobilizing the investment where it's needed.
Yeah, it's such a great point. For decades now, we've been improving water quality and air quality around the country. I think of Los Angeles is a great example. Back in the 70s, you couldn't see from one building to the next in LA because of smog. Now you can. It's not always perfect. It's, you can still see the smog.
Cap and trade with emissions works. Like we do have the solutions to tackle all of our environmental problems. It's really, do we have the will, and are we going to mobilize the investment?
Yeah. So I appreciate your superpower being, that ability to see the upside, the potential, and have some optimism in the face of, daunting challenges. Can you think of a specific example of a project or something you've completed that you're proud of that sort of grew out of your superpower?
Yeah. I mean, I think every green infrastructure project we've done puts a huge smile on my face every time I drive by, and we're often the ones planting the trees. I've planted so many trees across the district now, and going back to see trees that you planted 5 years ago and how fast they're growing. See the root systems take establishment and not have to worry about drought conditions so much anymore. I'm very proud of the work that we've done, especially because we've had to pioneer it. There hasn't been a way forward for us to follow, or a company that we kind of mimicked off of or were inspired to be. It was really figuring out how to make a business that doesn't exploit people or the environment. And we've been able to generate revenue through a restorative approach to the environment, which that's the proudest dream I could have.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. If you were trying to coach us, and I suspect you try to coach people everywhere all the time, how would you coach us to gain a greater appreciation for the environment, to learn your superpower, to be able to see somewhat more optimistically the opportunities to make the world genuinely better and more habitable for human beings and for the rest of nature? How can we be more like Nicole Whalen?
Oh, you have to love the environment a lot. I grew up by the water, by rivers, and then the sea. And my love of clean water in the ocean is what propels me every day. My father didn't treat me like a little girl that had to stay inside. He was out there taking me on adventures and camping. So I definitely grew up with a deep appreciation of nature. And I encourage everyone to go spend more time, go forest bathing, just walking in the woods, having access to green space and exposure to green space has not just mental health benefits. It actually lowers blood pressure. it reduces stress. There's so many, you need to reconnect with who we are as human beings, which is part of our environment. And that feeling of connectivity is something I think we miss a lot in today's society, is that we've become so individualized and we're not seen as a part of a system, part of an ecosystem, in which we actually are.
Yeah, it's such an important point. We are all kind of together in this situation, and you know, there are all these examples from your little projects, your microforests, to all of the things we see in terms of progress around us. Challenges still, right? I think with respect to climate change, I think the temperature will continue to warm for about a decade after we start reducing carbon in the atmosphere, and we're a long way from reducing carbon in the atmosphere. So we got some future problems ahead of us, don't we?
Yes, but there's also so much to be excited for as well. I used to work as a climate researcher, so I think when people know I used to have to communicate what was going to happen to our public officials 10, 100, 80 years from now. And those forecasts were god awful and horrific, of having no more rain-fed agriculture in certain countries, having all of Bangladesh having to be relocated. That's not a necessary outcome. There is no limit to how much carbon we can remove carbon from the atmosphere. We have active carbon sequestration technologies. We have trees. We have, I think, in my opinion, my favorite carbon sequestration is biodiversity. We need more whales. They're the largest living creature on Earth, and they store a ton of carbon, tons of carbon, just by living. We need to see that profit isn't going to take business where we need to survive as humanity. We need to focus on having business that doesn't make profit off of pollution and exploiting people.
Yeah, it's such a great message. Well, as we begin to wrap up here, I wonder if you would just take a minute and tell everyone how they can learn more about your business. For those who are in the DC area especially and are interested in a project, tell them how they can connect with you or your team to get a project. Be sure to remind people how to find the Raise Green campaign, and tell people how they can follow you on social media, so people aren't done with you today. Okay.
Yeah, we have an Instagram page that we post opportunities to get involved with events. We always have volunteer events in spring and fall for planting season. So we're welcome to invite folks out that are in the DC area to come to some of our events this fall. Raise Green, this is the best way you can get involved, by being part of the solution to climate change, by investing in actual climate impact. And I can't imagine a better way to make an investment, knowing that it's not just environmental restoration, not just more equitable communities, clean water, carbon sequestration, but also a solid pathway for returns for investors. So that's definitely a way that anyone can make a tangible difference, is through our Raise Green offering right now. And this is something that we really hope, it's not a one-time raise that we're doing. This is an investment product that we're creating to profit share the revenue moving forward, so we can make investing in climate solutions accessible to all.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We want to wish you every success in this vitally important work that you're doing to restore, really, the environment and help to prevent climate change.
Thank you, Devin. I appreciate it.
All righty. You betcha. Now, let's do some good.